why is it
Mhm.
important to kind of ditch the idea of dieting?
Yeah, I guess it just has like, I feel like it has like just like this negative mindset or tone when you hear the word diet, because it's something to me that's when you say diet, it's going to be short term
Mm,
or you know, I'm going to diet until this, you know. So it's a short term fix for long term problems.
okay.
So lifelong weight control requires lifelong changes. So I think the mentality of a diet means that I need to make all these changes right now to feel happy or to feel successful, to feel confident, whatever the case may be. So I think that the biggest like reason I don't like to say, oh, I'm going on a diet or I'm going to help prescribe you a diet or something like that is because then people think that they need to make all these drastic changes
Hmm.
um, for a short period of time, but then they go back to normal ways after X amount of days are up or until they reach their whatever their goal may be. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of why. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if I'm going to go on a diet, like it
Hmm.
implies at some point I'm going to go off that diet and kind of go
Yes.
back to the way things were, which got
Yeah.
me in trouble in the first place, right?
Yes, yes. And I will, I mean, I would be a hypocrite to say that I haven't tried to diet in terms, or even just like now, like I try not to diet, but one thing that I'm work on is like trying to drink enough water. That's like my biggest one. And so like it's not dieting, but it's a lifestyle change, something that I'm continuously working on. So for me personally, trying to drink, you know, a gallon of water every day consistently is just not realistic for me. So, you
Hmm.
know, it's really important to start with where you're at, being honest with where you're at, and slowly adding changes. So for
Okay.
me, I mean, I'll be honest, I drink maybe 3 cups of water a day. Like it's horrible. And I know it. I know. I see your jaw dropping. I know. But so for me, a really easy thing is to add in, right now I do 3 cups and it's usually like a cup with a meal.
Okay.
Just even simply increasing it to 2 cups at every meal. That's just one really small change to help increase my fluid intake. So usually what I like to do is when I talk to people about what their goals are, what they want to change, that's usually where I start is what they're currently doing because I don't want to, I mean, easily I could sit down with someone and be like, eat this, 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 and this, and you're going to see some results. But how realistic is that for them? Is
Hmm.
it something they can do for an extended period of time?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So rather than diet, like a healthier approach, if I'm hearing you right, is to kind of be aware of the changes you need to make
Hmm.
and then focus on adding in healthy changes sort of one step at a time with the view of like, this should be a permanent piece of my life, permanent place in my life. Is that right?
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. That you started out saying, the awareness key, like that
Mm,
does come into play because I think that sometimes we're not aware of things that maybe we need to change. But then on the flip side, there are definitely times people know, drinking a liter of soda a day is probably not the best thing for our health. So really it's also just trying to figure out how we can motivate them to make that behavior change.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of throw this one at you. I think there's, we talk about like fad diets or like tr- trending diets. I'm sure you probably could talk on those specifically and go for it if you want. But I think, a lot of people, they want to lose a ton of weight, and they hear about these like really awesome results that other people are getting, or they see posts about, some pretty outlandish claims. And I think maybe their thought is like, well, if it really works, like I don't, I'm willing to do it. Like I want to drop 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, like as quickly as I possibly can. So like I'm in,
Mhm.
I don't care, right? If it's not a healthy perspective or not. Right. So I guess what might be your response?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, there are tons of fad diets out there, and with social media, it definitely makes it more difficult too, because people are learning more quickly than ever
Yeah.
on what's working for them or what they've tried. Also with seeing, this image of what their body composition might look like too. So I think that the biggest thing is, if someone truly wants to make a change, is to really seek someone that's in that field. So seek a
Okay.
professional, whether it's, a dietitian, diabetes educator, whatever the case may be, to really seek a professional for something like that. One example that I always like to use is, say you have a cavity. Are you going to just go online and figure out how to fix it, or are you going to seek a professional in order to do so? So I do think that it obviously there's information out there and present for people to read about on how to do certain things, but I do think that it's, at the end of the day, it's really important to still reach out to an expert, someone that maybe
Mhm.
has a little bit more credential, in order to provide them with
Mm.
recommendations.
Okay.
Just because with fad diets, a lot of times we just see, a before and after picture. Angles,
Hmm.
filters, whatever the case may be,
Sure.
can make a really big difference. And a lot of times too, we don't know the whole story. We don't know how accurate it is. As you know, I'm sure, like keto, detoxes, just low carb in general diets, Weight Watchers, like they all have completely different, like recommendations for what to do in order to lose the weight or
Hmm.
to improve your blood sugar levels. And really, the problem with that is, following this diet might work for one person, but it might not work for you. So really, we have to individualize how we're going to reach our success, because no person is the same.
Yeah. And like, I guess to your point too, there's before and afters, and then it would be interesting to see like the after, like what
Hmm.
happens to that individual after they got those great results. Is it something that they're able to sustain, or is it like they gained all the way back, like we hear about so often? So um
Absolutely.
yeah, as you were talking too, you talked about having a cavity. I was like, yeah, like people are afraid to go to the dentist too. And I, as a registered dietitian, like you probably faced some of that stigma too. And I think one of the things I've always appreciated about you is that you're a good listener, and you have a more like of a partnering approach to it, rather than a like, you're bad, I'm gonna fix you, do what I say. um
Thank you.
and yeah, well, I'm curious, like, in that, is there a place in making changes to nutrition and eating, um for like experimenting with different diets, or just kind of like, try this, see what happens, see what you learn about yourself, see how your body responds, and like, let's check back in, I guess. If you had a patient or a client that was really set on like, hey, I'm going to do keto, like it works, like,
Hmm.
how would you respond? Would it be like trying to get them to think differently, or would you be like, oh, well, go ahead, like, let's see what happens?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Yeah, so if someone came and was like, I really want to try keto diet. My good girlfriend is doing it and
Mm-hmm.
she's down 30 pounds in a month. So if someone does comes to me and says something like that, the first thing I say is, why do you want to make the change? Again, addressing their motivation for why they want to make a change and what those changes look like for them.
Yeah.
So once I get an understanding of that, I try to take it back from off of that specific diet, just to learn more about them, because it's really important to build that rapport in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And once I kind of hear their story, their why, then I go into talking about the diet that they want to follow. So for your example, the keto diet.
Mm-hmm.
And usually I just say, like, aside from your friend doing this diet and seeing great success, why do you think it's a good fit for you? Because really asking those more specific questions like that, it puts them in that they have to, it's a very open-ended question. So
Mm-hmm.
it really prompts them then to assess why they think it's going to be a good fit for them. And I've had people say, well, I don't know, is it going to be a good fit, for me? And I ask them, do you consume bread? Do you consume noodles? Do you consume, any sort of carb-rich foods? And majority of the time it's yes. And so I ask them, how realistic is it for you to cut all of these foods out, all of these foods that maybe you love, or maybe culturally they have these foods in their diet, social gatherings, etc. So usually when I ask that part of the question, then they're like, yeah, it's not really feasible for me. Some people do say, oh, I could cut it out, but a majority of people say no. And I do feel too, the people that say, oh, I can cut these items out, it's because I've reached them at the point where they're very, very motivated. Because it's the very beginning, the very start, so, and a lot of times that motivation tends to drop as they start making changes. So really finding something that's more realistic and fitting for them is best. So usually then the next step is, once we identify, okay, maybe this diet isn't best for you, let's talk about what your friend maybe, like what changes he or she made in order to see this weight reduction. So that's kind of where I would go next. If she's like, well, her portion sizes are a lot smaller. Oh, she cut out soda. Okay, well, let's try some of these things for you. Because if they're noticing that their friend is making these lifestyle changes, following whatever diet that may be, we can still utilize those same behavioral patterns or lifestyle changes and incorporate them in their lifestyle in a way that fits better for them. I think that sets people up for more success when we tailor it. So.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. So it could be in a way, the trend or the fad and kind of those great results at least got them thinking about it, got them to seek out some help and then get some guidance along the way. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, good. So again, creating awareness, right? Change is possible, but then helping them find a way to do it as comfortably and realistically as possible for them.
Yes.
Is important. Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. Awesome. Great. What else, and what's on your mind in addition in that area of hey, here are the ways not to diet. So starting with why, finding something that is realistic for you, what would be next as you're kind of helping someone through that process?
Yeah, I guess one thing that I feel a lot of people don't understand is, but in our position as dietitians, it really does come down to that counseling aspect as well. So I guess one thing I like to do as I see them make changes is obviously that continuation of checking in or that accountability piece, being almost their coach,
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And as they continue to succeed or come up with if there's some obstacles in the way, to asking them, it's good to say how are their clothes fitting? How is your energy levels? Are you sleeping any better? Kind of asking those other questions that people don't think about, other than have you lost any weight? So there's a lot of other successes that can come out of making lifestyle changes that are going to benefit you. So asking those kind of questions, I think they're really important, just because I don't think people think about those all the time. Even asking about confidence levels or mood, there's so many things that when we start to make lifestyle changes, whether it's nutrition, fitness, we tend to see such great outcomes in other aspects in our life. Maybe you're more productive. So I guess that's just another thing that I like to do when I'm talking with them, because a lot of times people realize, wow, since I've been eating like this, I am getting fantastic sleep. So I think that's really important too, because that can add even a little bit more motivation to what they're doing. But cool. Yeah.
Awesome. So the value of having somebody else in the process with you. I mean, you mentioned earlier somebody who's qualified, but I have to imagine that a lot of times people, I don't know, the thought is like, tell me what to do, and then I'll just go
Mhm,
away and I'll do it, and everything's going to be great. And
mhm.
that
You're
might
absolutely
be
right.
a bit of a recipe for failure if that was their approach, right? As opposed to having somebody helping them in the
Yes.
process, helping them notice some of the results that they're
Yeah.
having that they can be excited about. And then, I mean, I would think that in that process, if some of the answers are like, no, my clothes aren't fitting better, no, I'm not getting better sleep, no, I'm a total grouch, that
Mhm, mhm.
then it gives you an opportunity to kind of go back to the drawing board and maybe find some other adjustments that can be
Absolutely.
made.
Yep. Whether it's, it might not even be related to like nutrition specifically. Maybe it's changing up their morning routine or even their evening routine so that they're going to be able to have better sweet sleep quality. Maybe their energy levels are low. Is caffeine something that they're consuming currently? Are they adequately hydrated? Are they moving their body? All of the above. So there's definitely questions that can stem from whatever they're currently going through. So it's really important, yes, to have that continued communication with them.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, as you were saying that, I got just kind of that realization of like, okay, if we're going to be making adjustments to the way we're eating, the
Mhm.
things that we're eating in hopes of getting some better results, that there probably aren't very many areas of our lifestyle that aren't going to be affected
Mhm.
and that aren't going to probably need to shift and change, right?
Absolutely. Yep. It is that domino effect.
Man. So I guess my next question that pops into my head is like, what are some of those? I know you mentioned a couple, but what might be like one or two or maybe three of the areas that you feel like outside of just like what you're eating, how you're eating, like food specific, like what are some of
Mhm.
those other areas that should be given attention to?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I guess a big one too is just like other stressors that they may be going
Mm,
through currently. That's something that I like to bring up just because maybe something's going on at work, so it's preventing them from having time to even grab a snack. Maybe it's or they're so stressed out from maybe something that happened in their family, so maybe they're not
okay.
eating or doing the opposite, eating too much. So really just checking in on like their mental health can also be very beneficial, I think, too.
Wow. Okay. What I'm curious, like, what are some of the questions that you'd ask to help them
Hmm.
explore that? I mean, and it with the goal of maybe like as someone's listening to have them be able to sort of ask themselves those questions and kind of check in on how stress might be affecting their habits and their goals.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I am a firm believer in like journaling, whether it's
Okay.
just writing on a piece of paper that you're going to throw away 5 minutes later, whether it's taking notes in your phone, but doing that self evaluation, even on a daily basis, can go a long way. So asking yourself like, what has stressed me out today? What is one great thing that happened today? Being grateful can always increase our mood and or our happiness. Um, and two, like if there was one thing that needed to change today, what would that have been and how can I correct it tomorrow? So that can then be applied to any aspect in our life, family, love, whatever the case may be, work. So I think that self-evaluation is really important. But to answer your question, like when they're in my office, I usually just try to ask more so open-ended questions depending on how much I already know about this person or patient. Then
Okay.
I can kind of maybe be a little bit more detailed. But again, the goal is to keep it open ended to allow them to speak because a lot of times when they're coming in my office, they're already uncomfortable in terms of, oh, like a lot of times people are scared to talk because they think that they're going to be yelled at or scolded or reprimanded, whatever the case may be. So making sure that they feel comfortable when they're in my office, and just building that rapport every time is important, not just the first time, because then they're going to be more open to talking to you and sharing about things that are going on in their life outside of nutrition. Because like you said, it there is that domino effect of if one thing is off in their life, whatever it may be, it can affect all other aspects. So that's, I'm glad that you made that connection too.
Cool. And you mentioned movement earlier too. Obviously
Yeah.
that's, I'm like, whoa, my ears perked up when I hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Just, briefly, I know I want to be
Yeah.
respectful of your time, but um, what are, what are some of the ways that impacts somebody's success when it comes to, you know, weight loss or seeing their
Mm-hmm.
changes in what they're eating start
Mm-hmm.
to get some results that they're excited about?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I guess like because we kind of started this conversation today about like how not to diet.
Yeah.
So I think the exercise or fitness component we have to be very careful with just because a lot of times people are like maybe they're going to go straight to the cardio machine and do an hour a day, or maybe they're going to do a lift in the morning and then a hard hit workout in the
Okay.
afternoon. Like a lot of times people kind of like to just jump in based on what other people told them, based on what they've read, all kinds of things. So, usually, what I encourage people to do, no matter where they're at, is I always tell them to find any form of movement that you enjoy doing that you can do repeatedly or consistently.
Okay.
So prime example, I have a patient that I was just nutrition coaching with the other day, who like she comes to the gym, but it's not like it's not her favorite thing to do. However, she got into ballroom dancing, and that is other aside from just nutrition, the amount of movement she got out of going 3-4 days a week really helped aid in her weight loss.
Hmm.
And she found a brand new hobby, something she loved doing. It was a social thing. She got to learn how to improve her movements. She got to wear these beautiful dresses. So like to her, it wasn't about I'm burning calories. It was about I'm found a way to move my body in a way that I'm going to consistently do this, and I really enjoy it. So in terms of movement, that's like one of the main things I
Sure.
go for. If someone's more like numbers focused or oriented, I do recommend like if they have some sort of like watch that tracks steps, not to be, like very focused on that all day long, like, oh, it's 10 a.m. and I only have 1,000 steps, I need to get going, but more so just as like a general tool to say, okay, today I got 8,000 steps. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to do a morning walk to get closer to 10,000 or whatever the
Mhm.
case may be. So that's just a really easy like form of measurement to see how much you're truly moving. Because a lot of times people that maybe work at like a desk job or just very sedentary during the day don't realize how little movement they're getting. And once they do start to see how their body reacts to that increased movement, can do wonders. Whether it's mood, energy levels
Mhm.
even do go up when our body is moving more. Our bodies were built to move, so I think that that's a very important factor too.
Cool. Awesome. So my last question for you,
Mm-hmm.
if I came to you and I was like, as far as health and wellness and putting effort into it, I was a blank canvas. Like I was just realizing like, Kelsey, I need to make so many changes.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to me?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess I would say where like I usually would just put it in their court and say, where would you like to begin? Can you kind of tell me about where you're at? And usually that's done some sort of conversation from there. um
Okay.
and then once they start talking, whatever it may be about, obviously at some point I would get to nutrition, but unfortunately sometimes we don't have time to even get to nutrition
Okay.
when we're meeting, because nutrition isn't always the prime focus for someone who needs help or needs
Gotcha.
change to happen. So not all the times we even get to that component of it. But like I said, asking those really vague questions in the beginning, and letting them know, like reassuring them that I am here for you for support. I'm here like to help you, like making sure that they're aware of that. Just, yeah, that's another big component, I think, too. And making them feel comfortable. Our body language goes a long way. If I have a computer in front of them or a piece of paper up in front of my face, that does not show great body language and truly being interested in them. So having no distractions, phone off, whatever the case may be, on silent, eye contact, leaning forward, body facing them can all make a really big difference too, just so that they
Interesting.
feel more comfortable. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
This is really the last question. I know that's the best one was, but
That's okay.
you, again, like you do a great job of like asking questions and getting to know somebody and partnering with them in the journey. If you were going to give advice to someone who is just getting started, so like this is your chance to like tell them, give them your opinion, your advice on the whole journey. Again, someone's starting out, this is maybe brand new to them, they have a lot of changes to make and they're just starting to realize that. What would your advice be?
Yeah. So if it's something like more specifically, like I really need to make changes to my nutrition, like I don't know what it is, but I need to start. That's where I want to start, So the first thing I would tell someone is write down what you're eating. Don't make changes to what you're eating, but write it down for at least 3 days. Then take a look at it and say, and maybe they might know a little bit about it, but are we getting enough protein? If we know what protein is, that's where I would then come in to educate on that if they don't. Are we getting enough carbs? Are we getting enough fiber? As the list goes on. But then, like I said, adding like something really small to their change. Maybe they're having a bagel and fruit and a glass of milk at breakfast. Okay, this meal's a little bit too rich in carbs. How would they feel about just having half a bagel, half a cup of milk, and half a cup of fruit, versus the full thing? So that's where I would start, is just what they're currently doing and then just adding one small change in at a time. And once it feels natural for them, then let's add in another one, maybe two, depending on how they're feeling. If they're feeling too overwhelmed, just one until it becomes a natural habit for them.
Okay, awesome. So just becoming aware, maybe journaling what you're eating, just write it down without the effort to make any change really at first. And then just a small, like, how can I make this a little healthier? What's a small way I can do that?
Yep. Awareness and education or seeking a professional are definitely the way to go for sure.
Okay, cool. Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.